Welcome to Lisa's Dog Agility Workshop, agility advice that creates success in every step of the journey. I'm your host, Lisa Selthofer, and I'll be sharing decades of agility training, trialing, and judging experience today in episode 6, 3 ways to get your dog to love the teeter. Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining me today. Today we are going to talk about the teeter, and it is an obstacle that I have had wonderful success thanks to a dog that was absolutely terrified of that obstacle. All right, so let me tell you how I came to my teeter experience. It was with a dog named Spot, and there is no known reason why he developed a fear of the teeter. I had a wonderful trainer. Nothing traumatic happened. It was just one of those things where, for some unknown reason, he decided, no way, I am not doing that obstacle. And there was nothing that could be done, so it seemed to really change his mind. So the first thing that I want to share is dogs make decisions, and sometimes it doesn't matter, even though you know that everything's going to be okay, once they make that decision, sometimes it's really an uphill battle to get them to change their mind. So whether you're having current teeter troubles or you're about to start training this obstacle, you're definitely going to want to listen to this entire video all the way through. And I do have a worksheet to help out as well at the end. Okay, so the thing with Spot is that the teeter issue, literally, it became debilitating. And even though we, kind of continued on and he was absolutely brilliant in other obstacles, I really had doubts that we were ever going to make it into the ring because he 100% refused to do the teeter. So thanks to him, I really took a very close look at this obstacle. So for those of you that may be having trouble with this obstacle, I do want to share that he went on to have an absolutely amazing agility career. And as a matter of fact, this is a picture of him in the trial environment. And as you can see, he's happy, he's confident. So while it may be a long road to work through any issues that you may have, it absolutely can be done. And for those of you that are about to train the teeter, really take some time to think about how you want to do that and incorporate the 3 things that I'm about to share with you. All right, so thanks to Spot, I really got a chance to watch the teeter and really think about it from his point of view. And there's 3 things that I noticed. And so the first one is the board itself. So if you were to get down on the approach side and really look up that board, I tell ya, it looks like we're about to send our dogs up to the edge of a cliff, and we're asking them by faith to completely go up this board that looks like there's no other side to it, and that they're going to fall off the face of the earth. So number 1, we have to kind of keep that in mind, and we have to make it worth it for the dog to think, okay, I'm going to do this. Number 2, and probably the most obvious, that board moves. And dogs are very smart. They quickly learn, where does that board move? I have no doubt that they're asking themselves, do I want it to move? What's in it for me? Why is it worth it to be on this moving board? And then, of course, one of the best teeters, if possible, is to get the dog to go all the way to the end, and then it drops down from there. I always kind of think about that as, now we have to get our dogs convinced to go to the end of the board, ride it down like the Tower of Terror, and be happy about that. So that's kind of the second part that makes this obstacle challenging. Third is that the teeter board, once on the descending side, it hits the ground, there's a couple things that happen. There's number 1, a noise, there's a bang. And also at that bang, there is a vibration that can come through the board that they feel both in their feet and then, depending on the board, up into their leg. So I was talking with some beginner agility folks and going back in terms of history on what the teeter was like at one time. In in the effort to make equipment lighter so that it was easier for handlers to move around, for a while there, people had what they called fiberglass teeter boards. I haven't seen one of these in a very long time. I'm sure there's a couple still out there, but it was a real thin piece of fiberglass that went over the top, and it was on an aluminum frame. The problem with the fiberglass is that it was so thin and flexible that it kind of had a bend to it, so almost a whip motion. And so what would happen is when it came down and hit the ground, there was kind of a little bit of a whipping action, but with that material, the vibration that came through really hit the dog's feet hard, and you could see dogs would sometimes jump off that teeter because they didn't like that sensation. So the fiberglass didn't absorb the shock very well. I do tend to prefer heavier teeters. I'll take a wood teeter, or even nowadays, what's really nice is we've got a lot of teeters that now have that rubber on it. The weight, but also wood and rubber are really good shock absorbers as compared to that fiberglass that was not. So the teeters really have come a long way. All right, so knowing all of that, let's focus on what it is we need our dogs to do, okay? So first and foremost, in order to get your dog to love the teeter, you really want to make it worth it for them to go to the edge of the board, okay? There's got to be something in it for them that overrides that potential scary, but I might fall off a cliff edge here. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you want to create a dog who doesn't mind movement or knows how to manage or navigate that movement so that they actually feel in control of that. Okay, and then third, you want to make sure that you turn that noise and that potential vibration into a nice, like, ta-da, that, like, it's no big deal. This is the finale, and finales are always nice and big. So let me bring up the picture spot. I want to show you something really quick. Okay, so I talked about the whole navigation of the board, right? And I told you that with Spot, there really was a question whether I was going to actually be able to go ahead and compete with him. So I did come up with, for him, I'm going to bring this picture back up in a moment. I did come up with for him kind of a compromise because I had a dog that wouldn't do the teeter at all, but I wanted him to feel some sense of control. And quite frankly, even if we weren't going to be at the most competitive levels because his teeter wasn't perfect, I still wanted to do agility with this dog. So I came up with a compromise. And the compromise was go to the middle, lay down in a down position where you're nice and flat on that board. It's a nice, comfortable spot for you. Manage that movement and then go down to the edge of the board. All right. That was the compromise. And I'll tell you what, he accepted the compromise and I accepted the compromise. And we got to go into the ring to do agility. It was this picture that made me realize at some point in our agility career, I had accepted that compromise. And in doing so, that gave him the confidence to make decisions for himself on how he was going to ride out this obstacle. So in this case, how he now evolved in his teeter performance was he no longer, as you can see, he no longer went to the middle and into a down and then rode it out. Somewhere in our time, he was now coming up into the yellow, doing almost a play bow and choosing to ride the board down that way. I didn't realize that we had evolved on until I saw that picture. And the reason I'm sharing it with you is while you may not immediately, especially if you're working with a dog that's already decided that the teeter is a very, very scary thing, think about what you can do to for that happy compromise. And at some point, because your dog feels comfortable, they may, in their confidence, start to offer up more than you ever thought that they could, okay? So don't always think of it that it must be perfect. Think about it in steps. Anyway, so the reason that I bring all of that up is because I firmly believe keeping those three things, which is the edge of the board in mind, allowing my dog the ability to manage the movement best for them, and then also creating the whole like, hey, this bang and this, this vibration is really no big deal, absolutely got us through the biggest hurdle in his agility career. So, with all of that in mind, I do have a worksheet for you, and this is what I used for Spot and I use for every single one of my dogs moving forward when I'm training the Teeter, is this 3-question worksheet, and boy, does it really help me out. The other nice part about this worksheet is no matter what method you're training the Teeter or what your criteria is, this will help you. So I do recognize that there are many, many methods out there, and my goal isn't to tell you that one is better or worse. My goal is to arm you with some good knowledge and information so that you can take the skills that you have built and continue to make them better and better and better. So anyway, by the way, this question came from someone who sent me this question. How do you begin to train the Teeter? And these are the issues that I've had. So it really resonated with me because, like I said, I've been there. I've really, really been there. So again, and I say this quite a bit, but for those of you having Teeter troubles, you can work through this. Take a look at it from your dog's point of view. For those of you that are just starting out training the Teeter, make sure you keep these 3 points in mind and how you're going to make all 3 of these points to your dog's benefit. All right, keep those questions coming. My email is lisa@spotonagility.com, and I do answer all of them, so please do send me a message if you've got a question. I absolutely love receiving them. And in the meantime, I want to wish all of you an absolutely wonderful week, and as always, happy handling.